What's up you guys, it's 2bricks and I'm back with a little video today just to give you a bit of a tutorial, I guess, or really more of just a discussion of one particular aspect of Lego building that I love, and that is greebling. For those who don't know, greebling, within the model making community, it basically just describes sticking a bunch of little things onto your model once it's done, once the main structure is done, to give it that convincing detail. Usually they're mechanical type details, pipes, bits of machines that have been cut off and repurposed and painted to look like different things. And the term has basically been popularized by, things like the Star Wars movies, where the original kind of kit bashed models had a bunch of little surface details stuck on them that made them very, very convincing at the scale that they were trying to represent, because you have all these tiny little details that just trick your eye into thinking you're looking at something really big and really detailed and impressive. So obviously, with all of the model making that we do here in the Lego community, the term has made its way over, and so greebling is what we just describe as sometimes slapping a bunch of random pieces onto a surface to make it look detailed. So this, in my opinion, is not good greebling, and the reason that I say that is because I think greebling is an art, and it's a really satisfying, wonderful part of the process once you really get into it. So what I've essentially done here is what I see on a lot of mocks and things from just around various places around the community, where you'll have a perfectly fine model that will just have a bunch of things stuck on it to give it that sense of detail. And the way that the things are aligned, the particular choice of the parts doesn't really add much value because it isn't particularly convincing. It just looks like Lego pieces stuck onto more Lego pieces. So in today's video, I just prepared a little section of Greebles here that I wanted to just kind of go over with you guys and look at, and with the goal of mine being here to just kind of share with you what I love about greebling, about the process, and the ways in which you can get really amazing results for your models if you really think about and apply the techniques of the Greebles to your advantage, and you really deploy all of those tools we have in our Lego tool chest. So yeah, that's today's video. I just made this little sample panel here just to kind of talk about some of the things that I enjoy, techniques that I enjoy using, and some tips and tricks maybe to help you greeble up your models to great success. So let's dive in and take a look at the Greebles. So one of the ways that I identify what I call good greebling is where it looks like there is a believable function to all of the things that you can see on display on the Greebles. It feels somewhere between electrical, mechanical, steam-powered, something to that effect, where you can conceivably think of a purpose and a function that could be assigned to each of the things that you see. So what I've tried to do here is something like what I just described as sort of a mixture of steam, electrical, and kind of things of that nature, a steampunky type of aesthetic, where obviously it's a metallic surface that has been detailed up, and I'm trying to give a feeling of verisimilitude or believability, a function. So the first thing that catches my eye is the wheel here, because it looks like a wheel that a human being could turn, and that gives us immediately a feeling of scale that we can kind of relate to, and it starts to set the scale in our minds. And so that is a really powerful tool, and it can also be a very damaging tool. So if you were, say, building like the surface of the Death Star, and you see a big wheel that looks like it wants to be turned by a human being, that's going to throw you off, and it's going to kind of draw your eye in a negative way, and it's going to kind of create a sort of a dissonance with the viewer that you don't want to really have, or you want to try to avoid as much as possible. So the best thing to do that I found is to really think carefully about the scale that you're doing, and to apply the parts, at least the parts that are recognizable, like this wheel right here, in a very judicious way, so that you're getting you're actually enforcing and reinforcing the scale that you're working at, as opposed to taking away from it. The second thing that I think marks a really good bit of greebling is when I look at it and I can't tell exactly on first glance what I'm looking at with certain elements. And so for my model, this part right here kind of fulfills that requirement for me. And so what this is it's one of the sprue pieces. It's actually not technically even a true Lego piece, but all of these little shuriken pieces here came in a pack of 4 attached to this sprue, which you're supposed to then snap off and discard, but the sprue has a stud in it, and the stud can be attached into a model, and it gives it this really nice, it almost looks like some kind of circuit breaker fuse type of a thing, and it's not an immediately recognizable piece, and so when you add that in there, your eye might catch sight of that and be like, wait a minute, is this Lego? What is that? You know, and it just kind of creates a fun moment of suspension of disbelief for the viewer that I very much enjoy. So the third thing that I think really makes for good greebling is when you get a lot of depth. And you can see here in the model, there's a fair amount of thickness to it, where, and not just thickness, but a way where you can kind of look at it from a bunch of different angles, and you can see all these different layers and things intersecting. And there's the lever piece that's coming across. There's the lever piece that's coming across this way. It tucks underneath. There's a little hollow area underneath this plate that's been attached in backwards. And then this little binocular piece is sort of covering over. It's creating a sort of a shelf over the top of that piece. It really gives so much more life, I think, to the model when we look at it from different angles, and you can just appreciate all of the different levels and layers of depth that there are within your Greebles, and it just makes it feel more alive, I think. And yeah, that's something that I try when I can to strive to be able to get that. Of course, the problem is I tend to work at a Star Wars minifigure type of a scale, or minifigure or smaller, and so I don't have a ton of opportunities to really showcase that, because typically, this would be a much larger scale than I get to work at for the stuff that I like to do. But I really appreciate when I do get the opportunity, being able to really think methodically about what pieces I'm using and be able to create something that's larger like this. The next thing that I try to do is to avoid, I guess, what I'm going to call the static effect. And by static, I'm referring to TV static from the old days, just white and black noise that is randomly generated and is evenly distributed across your TV. And so I'm trying to leave exposed areas here where it's blank, and I'm trying to leave, if you look at the top versus the bottom, I have this area in here and then this area here, so it creates a sort of a visual difference from top to bottom. I'm trying to vary up the level of detail with sections that are very kind of repetitive, and like this, where we have a lot of these lines heading in this direction, and then here in the middle we have a lot more randomness, but that is contained within this strip in the middle. And then at the top here again, we have a much more linear feel. So I'm trying to kind of give your eye a lot of different things to look at in different ways, and a lot of different ways to take in the piece, so that it doesn't just feel like it's a bunch of stuff just thrown in there. And that's something that I think is really crucial. If it starts to feel like it's just a bunch of stuff, your eyes will just kind of glaze over, and you won't appreciate all the amazing hard work that went into it. So keep everything varied. Vary the types of shapes. So I have round shapes here, a bunch of different round elements. Then I have all these, like I said, straight lines down here. I have some horizontal grid kind of lines in here with the down in here I have the modified tile pieces that have the grill pattern in them to cut across this way. So it varies the kind of the texture, I guess, and it just gives you a lot more stuff to look at one at a time, instead of trying to take everything in and just being overwhelmed by just stuff. And the final element I think that really sells a good legendary bit of greebliness is that you can tell a story with it. And what I mean by that is, if you imagine sort of a little Mr. Electrical particle, or Mr. Electron, or Mr. Unit of gas or water traveling down through these pipes, through steam being released from the vents and the little heat sinks and the power sources that might come in. There could be a battery pack in here that's powering something or other. You get the feeling that you could get lost in here, and you could just sort of trace all these imaginary paths through what you've created, and that gives it a sense of story that you just wonder, like, what might this be for? I mean, this is 3 shurikens stacked up side by side, but it could be it could serve any number of functions within this weird bit of this machine that I'm presenting to you. So I think if you get that feeling that you get lost looking at it, and you just want to know what each piece does, and you want to know the larger function of what this is a part of, and even if you can kind of figure out, if you're looking at it for long enough, you can kind of figure out what everything might do. That's an especially tricky thing to pull off. But if you can do it, it's really magic. And it's some of the best models I've ever seen. I swear I can understand how it works just from looking at the surface details, which were probably just, you know, they're just stuck on there. They're not, they don't serve any real function, and they probably were never intended to, but they look as though they could. And that's really the key. Yeah, so a couple of other things I wanted to point out about this, or just greebling in general. I like when there's an overall uniformity with a few pops of color. So here I tried to use, there's a dark tan piece underneath this roller skate. So obviously dark tan piece right there, sand blue. Predominantly sticking to the overall color scheme, which is, it's a gray metallic piece. Sort of it's obviously not metallic, it's the regular flat gray, but I'm imagining it to be some kind of steel or something to that effect. So I'm trying to largely stick to that color scheme, varying it up with different shades of gray, and then, like I said, a few pops of color here and there. I think that really helps to sell Greebles as well. And then if you have areas like this, it could be, you could feel like it's a different metal, you could feel like it's brass, or you could have even elements of pearl gold or the metallic gold. Just little kind of flares of it here and there can help you to get the feeling that there's different materials that are at play, and that this thing is made up of a bunch of different elements that have different uses and therefore need to be made of different materials. I think it's also another cool part of the storytelling experience of Lego Greebles. So yeah, I don't really have too much more to say about this. This is really just something that I put together. It doesn't, it wasn't designed to serve any actual true function, other than to just show you some of the things that I appreciate when I see them on Lego models. I really liked Lego's official recent Death Star trench set, because I think it had a lot of really well-considered greebly details in there that were very nicely modeled. And I guess I just want to encourage you to think about Greebles as not just an afterthought, not just something that you stick on there, but as an integral part of the model and of the aesthetic of your piece. And it's something that can really, really help to elevate your models to the next level. So yeah, that's about it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions or about any of the pieces specifically, or techniques, or things that I have done in here, please do let me know. Yeah, I would love to discuss Greebles further, because I think it's a really fun, very nerdy kind of model maker topic to get into. So when I first started out, story time, at the beginning of my career, I was working in a model shop for a studio called Shadow Machine, who you guys may be familiar with now because they just produced that fantastic Pinocchio movie that just came out. And we had all these drawers and all these bins filled with resin castings of all these different model kit pieces. And it was just such a joy to be able to go through the different bins and look at all the different parts that were pulled out from different kits, and be able to choose which elements of which parts I wanted to snip off and attach to my models, and give each little piece the love and care that it deserved, to make it feel like it was really part of the whole model that would be on set and probably never be seen, because it's probably in the background somewhere and you'd never even see it. But I knew it was there, and it's incredibly satisfying. So this is definitely a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and I absolutely love doing the Greebles. So yeah, hopefully this video was of some use to somebody, and you guys got some kind of a kick out of seeing or hearing my thoughts. All right, so yeah, that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys very much. I know this probably is going to elicit some questions about the Falcon, because it's a very detail-y, Star Wars-y type of a thing. The Falcon is coming. I am working on it. Please be patient with me. It's a really, really tricky model to translate, and there's only one, so if I break it, then that's it. I don't know how to remake it again. So I'm doing my best. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.